Okay, now for chapter 1, we are actually going over cost and sales concepts, and one of the big parts of cost and sale analysis is going to be our profit and loss statement and actually analyzing a P&L statement and putting that together. So I'm going to give you an example, and this is the example that I will be using. So I'll be flipping back and forth between this and Excel, actually putting the two things together. I'll also put this document up on the Blackboard for a course document, so you can go ahead and print it off and possibly work with it while you are watching the video to kind of prepare for the homework assignment that is already posted. And hopefully this will get you moving in the right direction when it comes to doing profit and loss statement analysis. But the very first thing that we actually want to do before we begin anything else, my recommendation is to actually go ahead and open an Excel document. So we'll be moving back and forth between the two. And actually what I might do is shrink the screen up a little bit so they'll actually, you can see both items at once. Oops, not what I wanted to do, There we go. So here we have the two documents side by side, and you'll be able to kind of see what I'm doing as I move back and forth between the two. But the very first thing that you want to do is go ahead and begin by looking at what kind of revenues we are dealing with, and then start placing that in your profit and loss statement. So the first thing that we want to look at is what kind of revenues we have. And if you look over here, one of the first revenues we have our food sales. So we would come over here and begin to actually put our food sales, $1,120,964,000. Another thing I'm going to do with this spreadsheet, just pick a wide area, and I'm going to actually turn it into money. It makes it a little bit easier that we can see it, that it's cash. So we've got that first aspect of revenues tapped in. So it's how much we're actually bringing in is the first thing we should be looking at. Now we want to go back into, we've gotten this taken care of, so we can actually go ahead and, let's see, look for our next item, which is right here, our beverage sales. And one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and highlight it so I know that I've actually taken care of that item. So here now we're looking at the next item we're dealing with is our beverage sales. So we come back, put in our beverage sales number, and our beverage sales are $465,200. Now we have these two items. And now we'd look and see if there's anything else that has the words such as revenues, sales, income, and we don't. So what we would go ahead and do here is now figure out our total revenues for this item. So since we've done that, we get our total, and I like to create space. Now the first thing we need to do is our total column is going to equal our food sales plus our beverage sales. So we end up with $1,586,164.00. So one of the things to kind of help us at this point here is we're going to go ahead and mark that as we added these two together, and here's our total. Now that we're done with that, our next area that we're looking at is our cost of sales. Now our cost of sales will look like an exact duplication of our revenues. So the first thing that we have in our revenues is our food sales, so we really need to find our cost of food sold. And if we come looking through here, here we are, our cost of food sold, we find that item. So we put cost of food sold is full. Nope. 392,337. So we've taken care of that. Now we'd look and see if there's anything else that would relate to this line right here, which is our beverage sales, and we find our costs of beverage sold. And our cost of beverages sold are 102,344. And since we don't have any other items in our revenues, we know we are now finished with our cost of sales, because this lets us know how much we had to spend out of our pocket to generate these sales for those items. So what we would do here is we will go ahead, and this is going to be another total line, and this is going to equal our cost of food sold plus our cost of beverages sold. Okay. Now our next area is our gross profit, and what our gross profit is, it is equal to our total revenues less or minus our cost of sales. I just went ahead and typed it out so you know what exactly it is. So with this one right here, what we want to do is we will go ahead and have a double bottom line to let us know that this one was an addition, this one is an addition, this minus that. Double line we use, and this is our gross profit that we have. Okay. Then after that, we are going to move into finding our controllable expenses. If you do have the textbook, you might want to refer to page 9 in chapter 1, and you'll see an example of the profit loss statement, and it could help you also categorize these. But the very first thing that you want to deal with when looking at your profit loss statement and your controllable expenses is going to be your salaries and wages. Now, salaries and wages is a semi-variable cost because part of it is fixed and part of it is variable. Your salaries are fixed, but your wages are variable. They fluctuate. So it's real important that you know and understand what portion is going to be what. We'll deal with this a little bit more in Chapter 2 when we get to that exercise related to budgeting. So we've identified that we have salaries and wages, and the first thing we want to do is come over here and see if we find any salaries and wages, and we do. Oh, I forgot to let me highlight that we've dealt with that. Our salaries and wages are $396,541. So that is our salaries and wages. After we deal with our salaries and wages, we now need to look for our employee benefits. This is also controllable because if you have more employees or less employees, that's going to fluctuate. So we see our employee benefits are $99,135. Okay, so now we've taken care of that. After we've done our employee benefits, we are looking for other controllable expenses. And with other controllable expenses, this is just to let you know what you might be dealing with is a wide range of things. Here with the textbook, I think just to help with concept development and just a basic understanding of a profit and loss statement, they lump a lot of different categories together, so you will always see it in the examples I give you as other controllable expenses. And here it's listed as other controllable expenses, so we're dealing with $275,330. We've taken care of that. Typically right there we are going to be done. So what we would do is we would go ahead and tally up our total controllable expenses. So what we're dealing with here is we're again going to be dealing with a total. So that is going to be our salaries and wages plus our employee benefits plus our other controllables, and our total controllable expenses are $771,006.00. So after we do that, we can then move to the next step. Now after we've calculated this, the next step is doing another subtotal, and what it's going to be is our income before occupancy costs, interest, depreciation, and income taxes. Now I've stretched this out, but what I'm going to do is I am going to format the cell, and let's see, alignment, wrap text. And now what I've done is this is another subtotal just to kind of help with things. And what we're dealing with here is since it's a subtotal, we'll use the double lines again, and this is going to equal our gross profit minus our total controllable expenses. Now from this point on, it's pretty simple as far as what we're going to do. The very next category we list are occupancy costs. And if you notice right here, our occupancy costs are $75,230. After we deal with our occupancy costs, we move into interest. And if you notice, I'm moving through the categories here. So occupancy cost is the first one, then I look for my interest. So I've done here occupancy cost. Now I find my interest at $25,600. Now the next step would be looking for my depreciation. Since I've gone through and found those, what I would now do is that is my total occupancy costs, interest, and depreciation. Oops, jack that up. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this text again. Format cells, wrap text. Okay, so what I would do once I find that total, that would be a single line here, and then this is going to equal occupancy costs plus my interest plus my depreciation. And then after I have this here, I will go ahead and create a double line because I'm going to be calculating another subtotal there, and what I'm dealing with is the restaurant profit before taxes. So this is going to equal the income before occupancy costs, interest, depreciation, and income taxes minus the total occupancy costs, interest, and depreciation. So what we have here before we have to pay our taxes is $140,548. So this is that first subset where we have found and identified each of these different areas and put them into our profit and loss statement. Okay. Now the next thing we do is we need to calculate the different areas related to our profit loss statement as far as for financial management analysis. First thing is our food cost percentage. And our food cost percentage is going to equal our cost of food sold divided by our food sales. Now here it listed as a dollar amount. One of the first things we need to do, we need to go ahead and change it to a percentage, and then have 2 decimal places afterwards. Okay, so once again, this is equal to cost of food sold divided by food sales. Then we have our beverage cost percent. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take our beverage cost of beverages sold divided by our beverage sales, turn that into a percentage, do 2 decimal places all over. Now for our combined cost percentage, this is going to equal our total cost of sales divided by our total sales, since those 2 numbers have everything combined already. Then again, we want to turn it into a percentage, 2 decimal places. Next, we're going to do our labor cost percentage. And this is going to equal, and we want to go ahead and set up a parentheses on this because we have a couple of different areas, but it's going to equal our salary and wages plus employee benefits, and in some cases if it's listed payroll taxes, in this example payroll taxes is not there, but if payroll taxes are included in the profit loss statement categories, that's one that you want to go ahead and make sure that you include in it. But in this particular example, we're just dealing with salaries and wages and employee benefits. So we go ahead and close that off, and we're going to divide that by our total sales. And then again, we convert that into our percentage and then to 2 decimal places. So what we have here is our salaries and wages plus employee benefits. That's going to be divided by total revenue. Now this last part is our profit before tax percentage. Try and stay consistent. And this is going to equal our restaurant profit before taxes divided by our total revenues. We turn this into a percent, move 2 decimal places. And now what you have here is a complete, properly formatted and properly analyzed profit and loss statement, and this is what you should be looking at doing for completing your first homework assignment, which is already posted onto Blackboard.